Welcome to the Left Foot, Right Foot podcast. It's about my book, Success, Failure, and Lessons Learned. Today, my guest, I'm so lucky I have a legend in the watch business, Danny Govberg. Thanks for coming in, Danny. Well, Danny, I'm going to lay a little foundation before we get into our conversation about who you are and what you are, but we know each other for a number of years, and we're very similar in the fact that we went into our grandfather and father's business. And you're a lot more humble than I am now that I am a podcast superstar and best-selling author. But, when people introduce me, or I'm sure introduce you, they say, well, he took over his father's business. They don't understand, in your case, in my case, you probably say, yeah, I did. They don't understand your dad had a 2,000 square foot store on Sampson Street, and now you have watches all over the world. You're international, you're left coast, east coast, and your company's called the 1916 Company. So with that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I watch Instagram, a lot of Instagram since we're doing the podcast, and it's remarkable the amount of people that are selling watches on Instagram. There's this guy, Mazal, you know who he is? Oh my God, he's this Jewish guy, and I don't know where it is in New York, and they have all kinds of, flip watches in 15 seconds. He buys it at one street and walks over to another street. It's kind of crazy, but the watch business since COVID has been so remarkable. The prices are over retail and, it's almost like a drug. People are trying to get these watches and even they're willing to pay whatever and they can't even get the watches. So why don't you give us a little background on, 1916 Company, formerly Watchbox?
So 1916 Company came together just actually in the last couple of years. And what it was a merger of Watchbox, which was primarily a pre-owned platform, and Govberg Jewelers, which was my family's business, Radcliffe Jewelers, which was a business that I was involved with for a lot of years with my partners, John Schmerler and Paul Winnicky. And then we purchased Hyde Park Jewelers, which was on the West Coast, Denver, Scottsdale, Newport. And we all came together and we put them all together and formed the 1916 Company. So now we have soon to be eight multi-brand stores that have Rolex, and then a number of boutiques like an Omega boutique and a Breitling boutique and IWC boutique, another maybe 10 of them. So that it's a real, based on new. That part of the business is primarily new, but we also sell pre-owned in those locations, not the boutique. And then we have a pre-owned platform that specializes in upscale pre-owned or, more higher end pre-owned timepieces, Patek Philippe and some independents. And there we have offices in Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and in Switzerland.
Do you go to all those offices every year?
No, I've been to them. I've been to Shanghai office twice, Hong Kong office. I've been going for years, but right. I've been there maybe 3 or 4 times, and the Singapore office twice, and then Switzerland I'm in 5-6 times a year.
Wow, what's that trip to? How long's that flight to Switzerland?
Switzerland's only like 6-7 hours.
Oh, that's not bad. And
Hong Kong is the
yeah,
long one.
Hong Kong is crazy. And so Hong Kong, is that different for you now that it's not a British property? It's owned by.
No, it's sort of that part of the world is New York. It's fun. Restaurants are good. People work hard. And, it's the New York City of that part of the world.
So tell us, so Danny created in the watch business, anywhere you go in the world, and you mentioned the name Danny Govberg, they're in awe. I mean, he created a new category in the used watch business. And it's just exploding because if people keep their boxes, which I never did, and they keep their paperwork, and I guess it's the tag or whatever.
Mhm.
You know, that watch is so valuable. It's worth almost or more than a new watch, right?
Well, I looked at it different. When I started in 1983, we didn't have any new watches. We were on Sampson Street, and the store was only like 700, 800 square feet. And it was with my brother, my grandfather, my grandmother, my dad,
Oh my God,
myself,
that's fun.
and yeah, we were a lot of us in one store. But I got into watches because we were doing jewelry, and I was like last man up, so I wanted to have something on my own. So I went into pre-owned timepieces. To give you an idea, Rolex Daytonas, which is a popular model, were trading and selling at $300. But over the years, we went into new watches. I did that with my brother in 1985. We opened up our first store on the main line, and my brother Jeffrey. He got all the watch brands, and I specialized in the wholesale side. And I just always looked at the pre-owned as 95% of all the watches made today are discontinued. You can only buy, if you take a look at all the best brands, they show you what they make today, but they've got 100 years of making watches. So if you look backwards, most watches have been discontinued over all the years. So, and I always thought, why not merge the two together like the car industry? You can buy a new watch, you can buy a pre-owned watch, you can trade your watch, you can sell your watch if you just want to sell it. Like, you should be able to do
It's
whatever.
like a liquid. It's like a liquid
Right,
commodity. You can
but
get
most
cash.
of the competition, most of the industry was you only buy new. So all the official Rolex jewelers or all the official jewelers of the new brands, for the most part, they weren't in pre-owned. So if you bought watches from them and then you decided you wanted to sell it or trade it or look for something that isn't made anymore, they weren't able to service you. So I took the approach, why not be everything to all people and be the guy that if you buy new, you can buy it from us. If you want to trade it, something pre-owned, you can do that. And then we decided to explode that and start to specialize in more independent, more niche players, more expensive timepieces, niche players that real enthusiasts would want to look for. So similar to, like, there's certain guys that want to buy Ferraris and they only want to buy a couple new ones, and they're not really collectors, but they just want to own Ferraris. But then there's guys that really want to collect them and they want to know every little last thing about them. That's like our industry. There's people that just want to buy a Rolex or a Patek Philippe. They want to own one or two and they're happy with that. And then there's guys that want to just collect them and buy them, and they want to know every little last thing about, down to the model, the mechanism.
Do people
So,
ever on a used watch ask you about the history of the person that used to own the watch? You know, I'm a they might say
not
I'm
so
a,
much. Sometimes if a celebrity's owned it,
oh wow,
it
yeah,
adds a little
yeah,
cachet. But for the most part, not that much
yeah,
is
yeah.
done in that way.
So what percentage? So what percentage of watches today are sold that are used versus new? Is it 50-50, or is it mostly used watches?
I
or-
think in our business today is about 50-50
50-50.
because we've just expanded the new so much. So our new business is almost there with our
So,
pre-owned
folks,
business.
they are one of the very few Rolex and Patek Philippe dealers in the country. They've taken a lot of stores away from people, and you're one of the few people that have stores. I know Worth Avenue here, the guy on the corner was a Rolex guy. I don't think he is anymore. They took this store away from him. But it's pretty incredible that I understand that Rolex is a nonprofit company, or they are for profit. I don't know. I just read that once. I don't know. If
They're a foundation,
foundation.
and I think that it's, people don't really know the structure. It's pretty secretive, except from what I understand, they're one of the most charitable organizations in the entire world.
Right.
And that's without sort of anybody knowing. So they do it behind the scenes. but they're immensely a charitable organization.
So we were talking earlier, Rolex anymore. It's very, very difficult to get a Rolex. And we were joking about they sell to a lot of celebrities. They sell to a lot of the ball players that are making 30, 40, $50 million a year. And we're Philly guys. And I said, well, what happens if Shaquan Barkley, wants to buy 10 Rolexes for his offensive line for the team? And you responded, I don't think I could get them. It's crazy. Is it that difficult for a guy like that? It would be a special request.
I think that, again, each situation's different. If he wanted to buy 4 or 5 for his offensive line, I think that would probably be accepted. But I think if he wanted to buy like 55 for the entire team,
right,
I don't think that would be possible.
So what's it like being Danny Govberg and watching the Grammys or one of these Michael Rubin parties and sitting there and saying, I sold him that watch. I sold him that watch. I sold him that watch.
Well, I'm not really the one that does the selling too much.
But you kind of know
we deal with a lot of celebrities. We deal with all kinds of pieces.
If Bill Clinton or Mark Cuban calls your company, some way it gets up to you, right? That, some famous person.
I hear about it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's different, the kids today, I'm 64, but the younger kids are the ones that are dealing with all of the clients because they can give better service. Our guys are experts. It's not just selling somebody a watch. We try to really curate the right collection for our clients and our collectors. And a lot of our guys that buy from us, and women too, but mostly guys, they want to talk watches morning, noon, and night.
Right.
It's their passion.
Right.
So for them, they want to be able to get somebody on the telephone that they can just talk about their hobby, their passion, what do they want to buy next, what do they want to trade. And that's what we offer. We offer that kind of service to our guys. So we've got guys calling us from all over the world.
So if a guy like I see on TV, I'm not speaking out of turn, Sylvester Stallone's a big watch guy, and he sells watches. If he buys a watch from you, are you allowed to say, I just sold a watch to Sylvester Stallone? Not that you just did. I'm saying, or is that like a secret?
It's pretty much our clients, what they buy is just kept to within us. We don't share it. We don't brag about it. And it's so common. There's so many people we're dealing with from around the world, from all walks of business and all walks of celebrity, that it sort of doesn't really faze us. All we try to do is treat everybody the same. So if you're a big celebrity or you're a doctor from somewhere or you're a lawyer, most people are getting watches for different reasons. So but it's usually happy. So somebody's buying a watch for their child because they're getting married or they're getting engaged. Somebody's buying a watch because they sold their business. Somebody's buying a watch because it's we just want to make sure that people are happy. And for the most part, treat everybody the same.
So tell us today, what are the real popular watches like in the Rolex line? Is it silver? Is it gold? Are people going in one direction, the Daytonas? Or
it's still the sport models.
Sports.
It's sport models. It's GMT and some Mariners and Daytonas, and they're the popular models. The models have been popular now for a number of years.
Right.
And in Patek Philippe, it's Nautilus and Aquanaut and again, sport models. I always tease it's watches people can wear to the beach and watches people can wear with a tux.
Now, what kind of watch do you wear?
I just wear a Rolex.
Right. And you put that on every day? That's a sharp looking watch.
I have 2 watches. I have a Rolex.
Is that crazy?
And I have a Patek Philippe. Oh, and I have an FP Journe. I have 3 watches.
That is nuts.
I don't have that many because over the years, I was always in the business. Whenever I'd put a watch on, somebody would want to buy it. And I figured, I'm in the business to sell watches. How can I tell people, no, it's not for sale?
Right. But don't you get to walk down into one of your showrooms and say, like a car dealer says, I'll take that car home today. Don't you ever look at a watch and say,
what I do? I put them on and then it's crazy. Like a week later, I'm not happy with it anymore.
Right.
I'm ready to sell it. So I don't do that too much anymore. I just have 3, 4 watches and I enjoy them.
Somebody says, look, I've been trying to get that watch forever. We sell it to me. I'll give you X, Y, and Z for it. We take it off your wrist and sell it to Has
I
that ever
haven't done
happened?
that because I only have so few now, but I probably would, depending who
That
it
is
was and
funny.
how persistent they were.
But on a fundamental business question, you're in the new and used, and I don't know anything about how your business runs, but if it's like the car dealers, they have floor plans. So maybe with new watches, you have floor plan, but the used watches must be capital intensive to buy thousands and thousands of watches of 40, 50, 100, 200,000 each.
Yeah, it is capital intensive because the one part of our business that we stick to is we own everything, and we put it into a condition that after we buy it, we bring it back to like perfect. So, and it comes with a 2-year warranty after we buy it. So yeah, it is capital intensive. I mean, and we're fast. So if somebody wants to sell us a watch, it can be 200,000, it could be a collection for 5 million. And we'll look at it
Wow.
and we can, we'll take care, we'll pay for it a lot of times within, 10 out 20 next day. So
You buy a $5 million package next day.
we'll buy a $5 million package over the phone. And if it was a Monday and they flew in Monday and dropped it off, we'd wire the money before they even left.
That is so fascinating. You know
Yeah.
what's remarkable about what you're doing? I guess now today, these watches are there's a frenzy around the watches, and then the women with these Hermes Birkin bags, and then of course you have the wine that you can't get, and then people want these special Ferraris. It's like a whole new category of panic over these items that are just so unique and special. And, a lot of times they say, if you want to show your wealth to people, look at how your wife dresses or the jewelry she's wearing or the earrings she has. It's kind of a wonderful experience to see all these items. I don't remember as a kid growing up all this kind of stuff. Was it out there back in the day when we were younger?
When we were younger, it was different. Men, for instance, owned a watch and you needed to tell time. So you had to have a watch. So most guys own one. Like I remember my dad had one watch, my grandfather had a watch, and then you didn't have many. But back then, guys wore chains and guys wore pinky rings and guys wore a little bit more jewelry. And then over the years, it changed where guys just started to accumulate more and more timepieces. And guys can own, there's guys that own 500 watches. So, but a lot of guys own 20. So, and it's because it doesn't compete with jewelry. And in the women's side, you have women, for the most part, they have rings and bracelets and earrings and necklaces. So the watch is just one piece of jewelry competing against lots of different pieces of jewelry, where in the men's category, watches don't really compete against that much. It either have 1, 5, 10, but a lot of guys don't wear any other pieces of jewelry unless maybe it's a wedding band or something.
So when that whole Apple Watch came out, did you feel any competition from that because of the health fitness aspect of the Apple Watch?
In the beginning, everybody was nervous about it, but it turned out that, and they were nervous about it also for the youth, not so much for guys that were 50, that they were going to give up timepieces or 45. But it turned out that it was wrong, that guys, for the most part, are wearing, even the youth today, people in their 20s, are wearing watches like they've never worn them before, almost because it's the only man's ornament that still shows success or who you are as an individual, differentiation or stature in your own mind, or I got it as a gift.
Right.
So it's one of the only things that you can wear that you can take all over the world and wear it on a boat.
So if I get a watch for my son and I engrave the back of it, and then he moves up in his life and wants to trade it in for another watch, does it lose value because it has an engraving?
It hurts the value because it
does.
has an engraving. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because people are more and more particular today.
Yeah.
But I still believe that there's a tremendous amount of timepieces that when you engrave the back of it, it's not about the value, it's about the story. So that same watch that you gave your son for a special occasion, does that watch end up with his son? And then does
Oh,
that watch end up
yeah.
with his son? And it says on
Yeah.
the back, from dad.
Right.
So a
Graduation. Yeah.
tremendous amount of timepieces are passed down
Wow.
from grandfather to grandson. So there's a lot of nice stories that go with a watch that stay within the family, that never get resold.
Well, I'll tell you a story like that. My dad never wore a watch in his whole life. And on his 90th birthday, he said, "Can you get me a watch?" And I have a bunch of watches that I bought from you guys over the years, all the Rolexes and stuff. And I was thinking about giving it to him, one of the watches, and I said, "He'll never wear it." So I went out and bought an $18 Timex. And he wore it every day till he died at 94, this $18 Timex watch. And when he died on the 9th. And when he died, my sister took the watch, and she wears it every day now. And the watch to this day, and I don't believe in all this voodoo stuff, is still stuck on the 9th. The watch works perfectly, the time works perfectly, except the date hasn't changed since the 9th.
That's crazy.
Is that crazy? I should bring it into your shop and see and see
Yeah.
if there's
Don't
voodoo.
fix it. Don't
if
fix
there's
it.
voodoo in it or something like that. So, Danny, I know you're doing this D Bethune and you have some great tennis players now, and you're doing really exciting things with this new watch line. Do you want to talk about that at all? Or
D Bethune is it's a niche brand that makes 300 watches a year. It's one of these brands that it's like, if you know, you know.
It's one of those deals.
Yeah, most people from
yeah.
across it is identifiable from across the room if you sort of are really into independent watchmaking, and it's a living watchmaker who, I've gotten to meet and know and respect. He's probably one of the best living watchmakers. And then we love tennis, a couple of the guys that I work with. And we took the watch and we got to meet some players and then signed them up that they would wear the watch, and we've become sort of friends with them. It's not that it's the money that they're making. It's more like they like it. It's niche. We've become friends. We love tennis. And now we have a couple golfers.
So let me ask you this question about
but we get to, for the most part, we do it because we get to enjoy the hobby.
Yeah.
And we get to take our clients that like tennis and golf, and we get to enjoy watches with the clients, with the tennis players, and they get a kick out of it. So it's sort of like we mix our own personal fun experience with collectors who love timepieces, and we mix it all together, and it seems to be a good recipe.
So in terms of durability, they're playing tennis with the watch or golf with the watch, or they take
that's the one thing. The people that we have that are like our ambassadors, they actually wear the watch when they're playing. So if they're playing golf, they wear it. If they're playing tennis, they wear it, which gives it a little bit more more credibility, because when we say it's a sport watch, here these people are actually wearing it while they're playing. So, and we get a kick out of it. So it's fun.
And look, they're these professional tennis players. I don't know which hand they wear it on, but they're smashing the ball. I mean, that watch has to be super durable to go through that.
It's fun watching. But no, they hold up pretty good. Even the straps. I'm always worried that one of the watches is going to fall off in the middle. Okay, stop for a minute. Let me pick my watch up. My strap fell off.
No, pick my D Bethune up. They have to announce what kind of watch it is.
Right, in the middle of the finals of the U.S. Open. There's the D Bethune.
Oh, there's the D Bethune. Well, this show's about success. Obviously, you're probably one of the most successful guys in the world, not in the United States.
I don't know about that.
Well, again, I said it's going to be hard to pull it out of you because you're so humble. You're not like me, my head's exploding from being a podcast superstar and best-selling author. I'm just kidding, folks. But so the show is about success, which we've heard, failure, and lessons learned. Have you had any failures that you can share with us along the way? You said you're 64. It's hard to believe. You look fantastic. Must be the tennis and a young wife. So there you go. That's why he looks so good. But how about the failures? Have you had any failure where I'll tell you, I'll give you a watch failure for me. Back in the day, I guess maybe I don't know if you could talk about specific brands. I went on a Frank Mueller craze and that brand crashed. I mean, I could never sell them. I don't know whatever happened to that guy. I was buying them at Neiman Marcus back in the day. And I forget what they were, 6,000 or 8,000. But have you ever taken on any watch lines that, or invested a lot of money in some part of your business that you learned a lesson from that, moving forward, you wouldn't do something like that again?
Yeah, I mean, I invested in opening stores in Atlantic City
Ah,
that they were good for a while and then they didn't work out. Or a lot of times you buy certain watch brands and they don't work out because they're new and it just didn't work. But I then turned that around and I figured, you know what, if I buy the watch brands and they don't work or they don't do as well, I start to say, you know what, when they're not doing well, I'll buy the closeouts.
that's
So
funny.
I started to get into the closeout business because everybody that would fail, I knew that it, at 50% off or 40% off, it didn't work, but at 10 cents on the dollar, it did work. So I started to look for brands and I would take brands on thinking, okay, I'll take them on. But then when they don't work, I'll already have an in to
And
buy
you're
them.
just going to buy every watch they have.
So, yeah. So, but no, I mean, I think a lot of it is just you're basically having failures every day. So I always used to I always look at myself and I'd say, okay, the average day is going to be a 5. And then you're going to have plenty of, you're going to have your number 1s and your number 2s that are like suck. And sometimes you go through a phase where your days are like number 1 and number 2 and you're just like miserable. But you sort of know that for every 1 and 2, you're going to have a 9 and a 10. So I always used to tell myself, okay, every day you've got, and the bigger you get, the more punches that you take on a daily basis, because it seems that that's what you hear about. The
Right.
good, you like to celebrate the good, but it's always this didn't work out right, that didn't get there right, this didn't work. But I sort of just try to tell myself that think positive and be positive.
So are you a good listener when people come in your office and they say, Danny, this isn't working? I mean, do you listen or do you
No,
just...
in fact, it's one of my bad traits. I'm a much more macro person, like with ideas, but for some reason, I with ADD and everything I have, I'm much more of a talker than a listener. In fact, I should train myself on being a better listener than talker.
Right.
But I pretty much see what I'd like to get done, and then I trust the people that I work with to get it done.
So ADD, are you a good driver? Do you drive a car well?
Yeah.
I drive a car really lousy because as I'm driving, the last thing I'm thinking about is the road. I'm thinking about everything that I'm about to do or going to do.
Yeah, I'm not
and you're a
the
big
greatest
thinker.
driver,
I'm just...
but I let my wife drive now.
That's smart.
She's my driver.
Yeah, no, that's smart, especially after a
She likes
couple,
driving.
Van Winkles or whatever, Poppy Van
No, if I
Winkles.
take even one drink now, we Uber. There's no.
Oh, really?
We don't have any drinking and driving now.
Oh, that's really good.
With the advent of Uber, even if we're going to have one drink, it's easier just to Uber.
Right, and it's so accessible now. So that's important, the lessons learned. So you think that you have to try and become a better listener. I agree with you. I have that bad trait too, and I'm trying to work on that as well. Do you do in your business? Do you have big motivational meetings and speaking with all the stores, sales meetings and things like that, or it's kind of independent each store?
I I tend to spend a lot of my time on just thinking about 3 or 4 things that can actually help the business in a given year now, and 3 or 4 things that I could stop the business from making a big mistake. And then I like working with some of the younger kids, like just to, we talk about what they're buying and what they're selling. I love being part of the trading floor. So
Got
my
it.
office is right on the trading floor
Nice.
of where there's like action pretty much all day long, every day. Something's going on that floor, that somebody's buying something and selling something and trading something. And I like to be in the thick of that.
So was it hard, you said about Atlantic City, is it hard to make that decision, when to sell that store, close that store? I mean, how much do you give yourself when you open a store, you say, I'm going to be here for X amount of time, or you just,
No, it just didn't work. We had some people issues, and then we had some brand issues. So it's sort of
seasonal,
like,
seasonal?
I find that my best advice, and sometimes I didn't take it myself, but now is, if you start something and you see it's not going to work, sometimes it's better just, cut your losses and get out, instead of throwing more and more and more and more at it.
Right.
That if you sort of have it in your gut that you made a mistake, just accept the mistake and move on.
So your kids are in the business. Do you feel like it's going to they're going to come in when it's time for you to step away, and they're going to keep it
Um,
going, or?
well, I have 2 sons that are in the business, and Brian, my oldest son.
I was wondering
And
if I can apply for a son job over there. Can I fill in? I mean,
well, I
if
don't
this
know, because right
podcast
now
thing
at
doesn't work.
1916, it's not all mine anymore. But the kids, Brian likes it. He has his own jewelry business or watch business down here in Florida, and so he gets to work with me during the day, and he has that he gets to do too. But for the most part, I mean, one of the best things that I do have going is I get to work with them and see them
That's
and
fun.
laugh with them. But what you find very quickly is that you don't know that much, and they know everything. And they're like, Dad, I'll call you later. Or
Yeah.
you get the old, like,
Right.
you get respect, but at the same time, it's like, you almost like you haven't worked for 40 years. They know more
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
you do,
Yeah.
which is okay.
Well, if you were talking to a young Danny Govberg today, what would be the best advice as we come to the end of the show that you would give, to be in the watch business, to be in the jewelry business today? It's so competitive, and you stand out as, the best and the most honest and reputable people. And I know that's super important in your field. But what would be the best advice that you would give kids today in terms of trying to do something
I
like
think
this?
it's learn the product. Like
Product,
to me, product knowledge wins.
right?
And then it's work ethic. Like, you're not going to become a superstar in 1 year. So in anything that you want to do, try your best to look out 10 years and tell yourself, I'm starting today, I'm 21, but by 31, I can be a rock star. And sometimes you get lucky and you're a rock star after 5 years.
Right.
But too many kids today, I think, at 21, they want to be a rock star at 22.
Right.
And it's like, you just started and you already want to be a rock star, and you've only put 1 year in. And
Yeah, it's just like so many kids that started during COVID and they did so well, like in the housing field, and now things are tough. They're at a 29-year low, and they've never seen tough business.
right.
So,
A lot of it's like, if you start playing a sport and you start playing at 6, by the time you are a pro and you're one of the best in the world at 22, you've put 17 years in.
right. Yeah, you're an overnight
So if
success
you think
after
about it
17 years.
in business, you don't get to start that young. So if you start at 21, okay, by the time you're 36, you can be a rock star.
But let me ask you this question. Didn't it go by fast? I mean, it's just like,
It's too fast.
I'm
It's
a
like,
little older than you, and it just went like I remember when I was 50.
I'd like to be 50 again.
It's
It
unbelievable.
doesn't seem like
But
we
you
did.
have great energy. You're not lacking from energy.
No,
You
I
travel, you do a lot of things.
try to keep busy. I really do. It's my hobby.
Yeah.
So I don't really have too many hobbies. Play a little tennis, do a little running, but for the most part, I just like coming in and doing what I've done for the last 40 years.
Yeah, your brother has a favorite expression about you. You're really pissed when it's Sunday and the stores are closed.
No, I actually like Sundays now. You know, like I used to work. Well, I used to work 6 days a week, but now I don't even work. I try not to work as much on Saturdays, but I'm on the phone all the time.
Right.
So even if I'm not working, I'm on the phone thinking about it, but I don't look at it as work.
Right.
So, you know,
well, if you love what you do, it's not work. But this is where 50 and our age now has changed so dramatically. Back when we were 40, you know, you had a flip phone or that sack you used to carry around and you couldn't communicate like we do with texting and phones.
Today it's incredible. I remember when I bought my first fax machine, I had to buy, faxes came out. I had to buy a friend a fax machine. So I had somebody to fax.
Yeah, that's so funny.
on that paper roll.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
hey, my son lives in Brazil and I drive down the road talking on the phone to him. And it's like he's right over there. And
it's crazy.
It's a crazy world now. I just can't believe that, you know, we lived through black and white TVs, the color TVs, the flat screens.
Well, we Zoom with clients all over the world. It's nothing now that I'll see somebody on the phone and the gentleman's talking to him and he's in China. And then they're just talking to each other, buying a watch, or he's talking about selling a watch and he's talking to him from China. It's crazy.
But that's what's so remarkable about what you sell. You sell a Rolex watch that could have been built in 1950 or 1970, and it's as gorgeous today as it was back then. And those timepieces are just so remarkable.
Yeah, it's great. Plus, what's nice is it's small enough that if we have a client in Hong Kong, we can talk to the guy on a Monday, and he can have the watch because of the way the time frame, like, you know, 18 hours later, 25 hours later, he's showing off that he's wearing it.
That's amazing.
So, well,
Danny Govberg, the 1916 company, amazing interview. I am so lucky. I just started this show, I don't know, five shows ago, and I don't know how I'm going to do as good as this. I have the top in the industry. It's been so exciting to have you here, and good luck.
Left foot, right foot.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Thanks for coming into the living room today, and we'll talk to you later.